What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. Here on a Sunday evening, the Blazers have a bit of deja vu times about 6 with another very disappointing road performance. Oh my goodness, this was an extremely disappointing performance tonight. Eric, it was a horrible effort by this team tonight. I'm not even going to mince words. I am very disappointed with the effort and how hard the team played tonight. Obviously, they were without Damian Lillard. That was going to be hard to overcome, but I am very disappointed with the pride this team showed tonight, or the lack thereof, and I'm going to go into that, and I already kind of vented a little bit. I had a halftime Twitter space that bled over into the entire third quarter. It was good to talk to some of y'all that are in chat right now. Some of you guys were venting. This is just an extremely frustrating season in regards to this team's performance on the road. Eric, what are your feelings? This is a therapy session, so what are your feelings on this team and the game they played tonight?
Yeah, I'm just really disappointed with everything right now. I feel like the coaching has been bad the last week or so. I feel like the players, like you've mentioned, aren't leaving it out on the floor, outside of a couple players maybe. I feel like there's just no. I mean, I wouldn't say they don't care, but it's just like they're getting slapped around, getting clowned by guys like Facu Campazzo and Bones Highland and PJ Dozier and stuff like that, and it doesn't seem like they even care that they're getting embarrassed out on the floor, and it's frustrating to me that we have a team, and then everyone says like, oh, we can never be a good defense with Dame and CJ on the same team, and then we see a game like tonight where Dame's not there, and our defense is even worse without him, and Denver has not had a good offense so far this season, and we made them look like the best offensive team in the league, and we continue to give up open shots. And I just want to say, for the record, teams that give up a ton of open threes, it's not personnel based. Like, you're doing something wrong, both effort wise and scheme wise, if you're giving up as many open threes as we give up. And until that gets corrected, this team has no chance really to overcome any of that.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. This might get to a point where I feel like this could get to the point where I'm saying it's a problem with the roster, but not for the same reasons as everybody else says it is. Everybody says, oh, it's because of the height. I think it might be a problem with the roster just due to the part of it, maybe the mental makeup of this collection of guys, because it is very suspect how little pride they showed tonight, how little emotion they showed tonight, how it seemed like they did not care that they were getting absolutely punked by the Denver Nuggets without their second and third best players. It's part of it might be the mental makeup, and then part of it might be like these guys struggled offensively, and it's not because of a lack of height, it's because of just stupid mistakes and lack of awareness and lack of attention to detail and, poor closeouts and a bunch of stuff that is hypothetically fixable. So some of this lies upon Chauncey, in my opinion. I'll get into some of my critiques of him right now, but I mean, come on, at some point you just gotta have some freaking pride, put forth some freaking effort, and play some dang defense, man. It's a situation where there's so many times tonight, especially on the defensive glass too, where you could tell Denver wanted it more. And it's just frustrating how much that's happened this season on the road, where it just looks like the Blazers don't want it as much as the other team.
Yeah, I will say, for the record, I thought this was the first game in a long time that it was a lot to do with our small lineup. And I don't understand when they're starting Aaron Gordon and JaMychal Green alongside Jokic, why we insert Ant instead of Nas in the starting lineup.
Because that would make too much sense, Eric.
And I felt like that let off the night with we were getting punked inside by them, and it set the tone for us early, and we never recovered really from it. We cut it to 9 several times during the game, but could never really get closer than that. And yeah, it's just, I felt like tonight it actually was our starting lineup that was the problem. And normally I'm not saying that, but they killed us on the offensive rebounds. They killed us using their size early in this game, and we never really adjusted. And then on top of that, we're going under picks the whole game. Like, if you have a quick lineup out there, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be giving up open threes if you have a small lineup. You shouldn't be going under screens with a small lineup. Like, you should be. It's one thing to lose because like Aaron Gordon is more athletic than someone and scores on you in the post, but in a game like this, there's no reason why those other guys should be killing you, like all their guards and stuff. If we're playing guards too, like that doesn't make sense to me why this keeps happening. And it's like I mentioned before, I just feel like Billups has just had horrible game plans defensively this whole road trip, and we got away with it one of the games because Houston can't make a 3. But other than that, like this is what's going to happen if we have these horrible lineups and horrible game plans against good teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to go into the going under screens. It's just when a lack of pride, a lack of effort overrides everything. Because you can run the right schemes, and if your players aren't playing hard enough, then it can be picked apart. And, going under was obviously a horrible decision, a horrible decision. And Chauncey has regressed defensively, in my opinion. We were playing aggressive defense at the start of the year, had some success with it, had some decent defensive games, and now we're back to being conservative, maybe more conservative than ever. Going under screens and then switching into mismatches with a small lineup. That's stupid. It's dumb. It's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous that that's the freaking game plan. Like, I don't understand what Chauncey Billups is doing in that regard. But if he was running the right stuff, we still lose by 15 tonight because this team did not come out with energy, with pride, man. I do not understand this team mentally. Like, I don't know. I don't want to compare, players in the NBA to like my attitude when I played basketball, right? Some people don't like when I do that. But if I'm on the court, I'm pissed. If I see somebody not hustling, if I see somebody not trying, if I see somebody have a defensive breakdown because they are falling asleep, like, have some pride. Where is the pride with this team? Too often on the road, there's situations where I feel like I have more pride than the players on the court. I want the team to win more than the players that are actually on the team. That's absolutely ridiculous, right? Like, they are paid to do this for a living, right? And understand, okay, maybe they go through emotion, maybe they don't care all that much, but shoot, they're paid to care, man. Like, it's just ridiculous how we have to come on here on a freaking post-game stream and talk about effort and how bad they want it, and the mental makeup of this team. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to even talk about because it's just ridiculous and not something that should be a discussion. We should be discussing X's and O's. That's kind of what we're good at. And talking about, okay, we need to run this scheme. We need to run this scheme. But we're talking about freaking effort. And if you're not going to come on the road into Denver and try to win the game, especially when you're the smaller team, because if you're the smaller team, you have to be scrappier. You have to be more energetic. Normally, the smaller guys on the court are quicker, are faster, are a little bit more athletic. We're going up against a much bigger lineup, and they're out scrapping us. And then the one small guy they have is getting an offensive board in between 4 Blazers because none of them are attacking the ball. They didn't attack loose balls all game long. It's a serious issue. And the fact that it seems like every player on the team is just like, oh, okay, whatever. in regards to that is so disheartening for me. It's so frustrating. And people want to come away with conclusions on the roster because of that, Eric. And like, oh, well, you see, it's the height. That's why they couldn't defend. It doesn't, none of it matters if they're not trying, if they're not putting forth effort, if they're not playing with heart. Nothing matters. They can have the smallest lineup. They can have the biggest lineup. They can have 8-footers. It doesn't matter if they're not going to try. Freaking Facu Campazzo at 5'10" is getting offensive rebound. He's getting an offensive rebound amongst 4 Blazers that are much, much taller than him. So that's where I sit at with this game. I can't take any conclusions about the roster from this game because this team did not come out ready to play a freaking basketball game today. You're muted, Eric.
I heard you mention this on the Spaces at halftime. So, what did Chauncey say we had to do to become a better defensive team? We had to have that scrap. We had to have an aggressive style. We had to take the fight to that other team. And I just feel like honestly, we play like a team that's being paid to fall down in the second round, and just make it look good, like we're a complete road apple right now. Like we have no, I don't know. It's just and for the record, I wasn't expecting us to like win this game necessarily without Dame, but you want to see some like defensive progress and some making the right things, and instead we're heavily regressing on the defensive end, and it falls in line with the last few games playing a very unaggressive defense. And our defense was looking great earlier in the season when it was super aggressive. We were really pushing those the ball handler out far on pick and rolls, and we've done none of that. I mean, maybe a couple times in this game we did that, but it was like slow reaction by everyone. And this isn't a case of, because I heard Quick on Thursday on a local radio show that he does. He said that part of the frustration with Billups is this was after the Phoenix game, so I'm assuming like this had somewhat to do with that. He said that the game plan initially was one way, and they made an adjustment at a timeout or at halftime, and then throughout the course of the game, like several times, just 1 or 2 people forget that they switched their defense. So you have 3 players playing the way that Chauncey told them to adjust to, and then 2 players not adjusting. But that doesn't account for us going under the screens like this whole time over this road trip, us switching picks so often. And it's like, those are actual decisions, like coaches' game plans. And if they're not the coach's game plan, then anytime someone does that, they need to get their butt to the bench because they're not doing what you need them to do. So I just feel like we're starting to see that maybe no matter how good of a mind Chauncey has, maybe he's not able to get that to translate on the floor. And I'm hoping that's just him trying to figure it out, and he's got plenty of time to do that, obviously. And as long as we don't blow too many of these games at home over the next 5-game homestand, we're still right where we need to be, really. So it's not like we're that far off of being in okay shape, but it's just troubling that we are just like, if you told me going into this game that we were going to go under the picks, I would have told you, well, we're going to lose by 20, right?
Yeah.
It's just obvious. It's just so obvious, and it just takes the aggression out of it. And it's just troubling to me that we're going back to a conservative defense when we know that does not work with this team.
Yeah, I'll thank the 2 donos in a second. I just want to touch upon a point you made at the start of that, where you'd have 1 or 2 players forgetting what defense they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, that's inexcusable for players in the freaking NBA. I know. Like, bro, I ran 7 defenses in high school, And we never had that issue where guys would be like, oh, wait, I thought we were in this. I thought we were in that. In freaking high school, like 7 different defenses. You know, you had a zone, you had a secondary zone, a different style of zone, you had a trapping zone, a full court press, and you had to fill gaps and whatnot. And yeah, it's freaking high school basketball. But that's my point. It's freaking high school basketball and we could do it. You're talking about NBA players in the league, and they can't adjust to a second defense? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And that's where I'm sitting here, like, starting to question the roster because of their mental makeup. Like, I want to know, like, who is it? Is it Robert Covington? Because that guy just came out today he was the worst. Dude came out, looked like mopey, looked like he didn't want to be there. That's an issue. But whoever it is that can't adjust to a second defense, you have to be able to make adjustments in the NBA. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. And if you got guys that can't adjust, they shouldn't be playing. Right? There's the only guys who should be playing if they're struggling to adjust defensively would be Dame or CJ. No other player on this team is good enough over the guy behind them to deserve a bunch of minutes if they can't switch the defense. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, man. Like, that's the thing is, I don't know. Maybe that's why Chauncey's going under, because he has a few players on this team that are incapable of switching it up defensively. But that doesn't explain that being the game plan from the get-go, and you still got to try it, and then you got to hold them accountable and bench those players when they do that. Because it's insane what we're talking about on this post-game show, Eric. It's insane, like, that we're talking about players that can't adjust to switching up the defense in the middle of a game, that can't remember what they're running, that come out and are just mopey and not playing with effort, not playing with attitude. What? I can't believe this is the discussion, man.
Yeah, and for those that might not have heard this interview either, so towards the end, quick, the person asking the question asked, it seems like the players are pretty smart and there's not like a moron in this team and there's no one that's like doing his own thing and not bought in. So like, what's the problem or whatever? And Quick was like, I gotta say I disagree with that. There is one prominent player that is not doing what he's supposed to and isn't quite he said it's simmering right now. He didn't want to out them because it hasn't become a major problem, but that it was something to keep an eye on. And so he made it sound like it was someone that was here before, so it rules out like any of the newcomers from the offseason. And then he also mentioned, or one of the people asking the questions said, does it rhyme with Brusive Jerkic? And he kind of laughed, and then he said, no, it's actually not Yusuf, which, I mean, he could be just saying that just because, like, if he says, I'm not going to comment, then that kind of makes it seem like it is Nurkic, so maybe he just said that, but, yeah, so...
If it's not Nurkic, it has to be Rocco.
In Quick's mind, there is someone, and it's got to be pretty much a starter, because, I mean, we've heard Ant and Nas be, talk about how good this coaching staff is for them and how much they've grown just in these few months that they've been here. So I doubt it's one of those two. Pretty much has to be a starter. It's not Dame. And so, yeah, I don't want to just like guess, but I mean, it's possible it's CJ. It's possible it's Norm. Norm could be unhappy with some of the things, but he's been playing good too. So I doubt it's Norm when I don't know. It's just frustrating to hear that there's someone on the team that might not be on the same page as everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, Rocco, like, I was watching the first 4 minutes, like, dude, it has to be Rocco. But I don't understand. It's not like he can do anything off the dribble anyways. Like, what more role does he want? He has to play defense and make threes. That's all he's ever done anyway. I don't like.
Because he's always had the attitude that Nance had when he came in. Like, I don't care how much I play. I just want to play defense and help this team win. So yeah, I'd be surprised it was Rocco, but he is one of our biggest problems on defense, which shouldn't be the issue.
Yeah. Shout Rip City 208, $2 dono. He said this team's body language is concerning. Yeah, you can see it, man. I think everybody could see it. It's sad. Appreciate the $2 dono. And then shout out Shaggy Squid, $5 Australian dollar dono. For somebody that preached accountability all offseason, Chauncey hasn't held anybody accountable at all. This sucks. So hard to watch us play. Crying emoji. Appreciate it. Shaggy Squid. The accountability is, I don't know. Rocco came out with such poor effort the first 4 minutes, and then they call timeout, and he stays in the game. Like, come on.
The one play in particular, the Gordon dunk down the lane, Rocco was in a position to come out and meet him, and he backed away. Business decision, I guess, but when you're a defensive player, you cannot make that decision when we need him. Because Nurk was also in a position there where he could have probably helped, but he's also guarding Jokic with no help in this game. They're not double teaming when Jokic had the ball and Nurk was in the game, so he can't really leave Jokic for those kind of plays. So that has to be Covington's help there, and he was either late or didn't want to get posterized, and that's the kind of effort that you're talking about. Whereas maybe if he steps in there, takes a charge or something, this turns out to be a different game because our players are actually hustling and doing something to prevent them from getting open shot.
It was like every play the first 4 minutes, because I came into this game, Eric, like thinking, if it's not Nurkic, who that, Quick was talking about, if it's not Nurkic, it's probably Rocco. So I came in the first 4 minutes of this game focusing on Rocco, trying to look at his body language, his effort. It was every play, and sometimes it went unnoticed because it didn't lead to anything. It was every freaking play defensively. And then offensively, like, he's going to shoot and he's going to try and make things happen. Playing offense is fun. Like, you can really tell how bought in a player is by watching them on the defensive end. And, we've seen it all year. Robert Covington has not been mentally locked in at all defensively all year. And now it's like the first 4 minutes, his effort wasn't there either. This dude is not good enough to remain in the league if he's a below average defender. The reason why he's been a really good player is because he's been an elite defender. So that's just what's frustrating, man. It's like the dude went from elite to now it's like he's not focused. He doesn't care. He's a below average defender this season. That's what he's been.
And then in the second half, he has that play where he chases down a loose ball and gets it Jokic to dribble it out of bounds. And it's like, wow, where's that effort been all year? It's like, did you get chewed out at halftime and then you're showing some effort for like a few minutes and now and then I didn't really see it much the rest of the game, but I was like, dang, see, that's the Rocco we need, like the hustler that gets us an extra possession because of just sheer will and effort. And we don't really have guys like that other than one Nasir Little off the bench. And I would actually throw Dennis Smith Jr. in there as well. He's come in and done his job. He's making good passes, running the offense, and he's by far our best perimeter one-on-one defender. So, I think when it comes to accountability, like the donation from Shaggy Squid mentioned, start playing those guys more. Those guys play 40 minutes if the other team. And that's what doesn't make sense, because we've seen Rocco play like 39, 40 minutes in games this year. So if he's being a problem, why is Chauncey rewarding him with that many minutes? And same with CJ. If CJ is the problem, he's played 40 minutes in several games this year. So it doesn't make sense to me why those guys are getting rewarded with minutes if they're possibly being part of a problem.
Yeah. It's super frustrating. And it's funny because, like, there's so many opinions out there about what's happening with this team. And so many of them are so crazy to me. Like, I think it's pretty obvious this team is not playing the right style of play. And I'll get into arguments with where people see it, and they'll say, wow, you're blaming the coach again? Wow, it's just all about blaming the coach for you. It's not about blaming the coach. It's about focusing on what happens on the basketball court. That's all I do. That's all that we do, Eric. We focus on what happens, and we talk about, okay, what's good, what's bad, what needs to be worked on, what do we need to do more of. It's that simple, right? And obviously when the team comes out with a lack of effort and a lack of energy and a lack of emotion, a lack of pride, like, it doesn't really matter what you're doing schematically, but if Stotts started, if this team started playing the right style of play with Terry Stotts, we would have been Terry Stotts fans. It wasn't about hating on Terry Stotts to hate on Terry Stotts. And it wasn't about excusing the roster to excuse Neil Olshey and all this type of stuff that people make it out to be. We've had so many people in chat lately, like, making it out to be like that. That's not what it's been about. It's been, I think this roster can be really good if they play the right style of basketball. Right now, they are not playing the right style of basketball. They're super stagnant on offense. Defensively, they're conservative. They've started switching all the time into mismatches, which you can't do when you're small. And then were going under screens today, and then they're not playing with energy, right? So all this stuff, that stuff is fixable, but they're not playing the right style of play defensively or offensively. Like, that's an issue. And then they're not playing with energy on the road and effort. Like, that's the issues right now that I see, right? And maybe it comes to a conclusion where, okay, there's guys on this team that don't have the right mental makeup or aren't trying to do the right things, and they need to be shipped, they need to be traded, they need to be shopped for something else, right? But that's not because of height. So many people are so focused on height and like, we'll try and fit every little thing, even if it's a square peg into a round hole. They'll try and fit every little thing into height, guards, like, all we do is just break down what's happening on the court, man. Like, that's what, and it's sad because it's not even necessarily a discussion right now about what's actually happening, just because the lack of effort overrides it.
I feel like AZ Nightmare doesn't listen because he says everyone blaming Chauncey as if it's only him. He's not out there playing. Our players have played like this for many years and still play the same way. Not much he can do. There is everything he can do. That's our point. If you see Rocco out there not having the right defensive assignments, he shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be sitting there like, oh, no one has any effort. Oh, nothing I can do. That's on the players. Oh, too bad. When your whole thing is about accountability. Your whole entire philosophy as a coach is accountability, according to Chauncey Billups' own words. That is the number one most important thing to Chauncey Billups. Said so himself about 100 times, right? Every single press conference he mentions the word accountability. It was the word of the day at Media Day. It is about accountability with this dude. It is absolutely 100% on Chauncey Billups if the team is not giving effort and those same players stay in the game and are consistently still the starting lineup, still playing, still having the same amount of minutes game in and game out. So if you want to sit here and say it's not on him, he can't make them chase down a loose ball, he can make them sit their butt on the bench and not play in the game. And that's what he needs to do. That is exactly what he needs to do right now. And that is how you fix problems with effort, is by eliminating the problem. Get them out of the game. It's that simple. And he's not doing that. We're playing a lazy-ass defense. We're not trying very hard to pressure the ball. It's completely unaggressive. We're not scrapping, like he said. We're not doing any of the things he wanted to do as a coach, or he said he was going to implement as a coach. And that's on him for not just letting it happen and not doing anything about it. And then on top of that, the game plans have been crap too. That is coaching. I don't care what you say. If you can't just sit there as a coach and be like, oh, you know what? Oh, what am I supposed to do with this roster? I mean, these guys just aren't trying. Like, Chauncey said specifically that his job is to fix that and to get this team to scrap, and they're not scrapping. So that is 100% on Chauncey, and I don't care what anyone tells me otherwise. This is just the way it is, and Chauncey has the ability to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, You hit everything on the head, dude. I can't even add anything to that. I don't know. It's like some people think, if the roster's not perfect, all Chauncey can do is just sit there and do nothing. I mean, Rocco came out. I mean, perfect example. Rocco comes out first 4 minutes, doesn't play with energy, doesn't play with effort. Chauncey calls timeout. Should have taken Rocco out of the game. Send a message. Hold him accountable. You got Larry Nance Jr. as a backup for a reason. Sub him into the game. He's played harder than Rocco all season long, but Rocco stays in the game. Now, Rocco only played 19 minutes tonight. Part of that was probably because of the blowout. So I've seen, they're slightly trending towards that way, but it's not drastic enough for how big the issue is. The reaction does not match the situation. Like, you have a situation where CJ doesn't shoot a 3 at the end of the quarter because it would have been a tough look, and he plays 40 minutes in that game. He doesn't get benched, even though this dude loves taking tough looks in the half court. Right? But he didn't want to mess up his percentage. And he doesn't get benched for that. At some point, you got to hold players accountable and send a message that certain stuff is unacceptable. Because you do have players that will play with some energy on this team. You have Ant, you have Nas. Dame has the abdominal injury, but overall, like, energy-wise, I don't think he's necessarily been bad. And here's the thing. When he preached accountability, and when he was holding the players accountable, being hard in regards to their defense, CJ McCollum, the first 7 games of the season, was an above-average defender, right? When he was preaching accountability, playing an aggressive scheme, and then we go away from that, and CJ is a poor defender now. And people are saying, see, CJ's just automatically a poor defender no matter what. What? That's not how I see it.
Yep. And then you have people like Kyle saying, Eric, you can't pull them out, though, because of big contracts they have. It's more politics than people think. Then don't hire Chauncey Billups. Don't preach accountability then. What is the point of preaching accountability if you're just going to be like, oh, you know what? I only meant that, like metaphorically, because there's nothing I could do with these contracts, man. I mean, Roca makes $12 million. How can I bench him? Like, that's so dumb. Like, no, the whole point of putting an address on it and having accountability is that it doesn't matter how much you make. It's all about doing the things to lead to holding people accountable. And if people care more about, oh, you know what, like, let's say CJ is like, I make $30 million, how dare you bench me? Then that guy doesn't want to win and trade his butt out of town. Like, if they don't respond to that, because if this team is going to win and you get benched like that, the correct response would be the next time you get put back in the game, you give that effort. You don't have these problems. You're showing everything that Chauncey wants you to show out there. And unless you don't do that, then you probably aren't going to be on this team very long. And that's why it shouldn't matter what your contract is, because every one of these people, including Damian Lillard, if they're not doing the things that Chauncey feels like they should be doing to win basketball games and to eventually compete for a championship, then they shouldn't want to continue playing that way. So if they're not on board, if they're not buying into what Chauncey's saying, then we have problems with the players, and we need to address those and get it started.
Yeah, and here's the simplest way, because some people still don't get it. We're blaming the players for not caring enough, not playing with enough intensity. We're blaming Chauncey for not holding them accountable for that. That's the simplest way we can put it. Because people always come in here and will make it, all the players as if Chauncey can't hold them accountable. Dro says, guys, we just need to develop chemistry. Blaming Chauncey doesn't make sense. The players aren't competing. These are grown-ass men. They make the money to perform, and they aren't performing. Chauncey has the ability to hold him accountable, and he's not. So that's on Chauncey. These guys coming out with the lack of effort, that's on them. But it's like intertwined. If Chauncey holds these guys more accountable, they won't be able to get by with coming out and just going through the motions. So either if they want to play, if they, care about at least getting PT, hopefully, then they're going to start playing harder if they're held accountable and that's being cut. So you can't skate by with a lack of accountability with players doing this crap, with players not coming out with energy, not coming out with hustle, not coming out with effort. you can't just accept that and say, well, they just need to do it. So hopefully they start doing it. That's not how things work. Mm-hmm. Shout out near 012, $5 dono. He says, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, seeing how it's 13 games into him being a head coach. By game 20 to 25, if it's the same stuff, then, I mean, yes, it's still early, but, like, my whole point was there's going to be growing pains. They might lose some games, like, in order to get to their destination, the destination being comfortable with playing the right style of play, right? So, I said there's going to be growing pains on that path, but they have veered off the path. That's the difference. They have veered off the path. Mm-hmm. Now we're sitting here talking about effort, a lack of accountability. We're sitting here talking about them going under screens on shooters. What the hell are we talking about? They veered off the path. There's a cliff next to the path. They're like diving over the cliff right now, in my opinion. So, and people will say, oh, well, you said to be patient with them. Yeah, if they're on the path, we're going where they need to go. But they're not. So.
Yep.
I appreciate the $5 dono near zero, not try to like go after you. That's just kind of where I'm at right now with my analysis on this team. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. And for the record, I am not giving up on Billups. I still think if anyone is going to hold this particular roster accountable, that he is the most likely person to do it. I'm disappointed that we're not losing these games in a way that shows growth for learning a defense that is kind of complicated, or if the mistakes were happening, if like what Quick was saying, or what I was saying earlier about what Quick said, was that like someone was just blowing an assignment or something like that. But it's whole game plans. It's our whole defensive scheme that's all off base, especially if we're playing with a smaller lineup. You can't play this conservative, and that's troubling to me that we know that from watching this team now for a long time. But the coaching staff said they knew that going into the season. They started off knowing that, and we were playing actually pretty well, I thought, and then we just go back to not doing it. It's going to be kind of frustrating if we have good game plans at home and we show that we're good, because I feel like we let some of these games get away from us that we could have won if we were just playing the way that the coaching staff wanted us to play heading into the season.
Yep.
But there is still lots of room to improvement, and it's the reason why I'm not like completely jumping off the Blazers bandwagon. And as someone asked in chat, are you still sticking by your predictions? I still feel like we're one of the better teams in the West, and I think we can still do that. I haven't given up on this team yet. It's easily fixable, in my opinion. It's very simple to fix it, and it just needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed now rather than 10 games from now.
Yep. Shout out Kyle Wilson with a $5 dono. He says, if accountability mattered to Billups, Nas should have been starting over Rocco after Game 5. Hopefully he pulls Mario Cristobal and choose someone out. And I don't necessarily agree with that tweet. I appreciate the donation, and I mean, this contributes to the discussion in a good way. So I appreciate you, Kyle. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think early on in a season, you want to give players a little leeway to kind of figure things out, and maybe, they're not mentally locked in at the start of the season, and you don't want to just punish them like too soon, where you don't give them a chance to kind of correct that. But at this point, you've given Rocco enough of a chance to correct that, and he hasn't. So, like, at this point, there needs to be changes. And Chauncey apparently said in his post-game press conference that there might be lineup changes if this continues. We'll have to listen to that. We'll definitely take a look at that press conference. There's a difference between changing the starting lineup and cutting playing time. So I think Game 5, Rocco comes out without much energy. His playing time should be cut. He shouldn't be playing 37, 38 minutes. There is multiple games where he's just playing an insane amount of minutes, in games where he was not playing good defense, not making threes, not giving enough effort. So his minutes should have been cut, but not necessarily a starting lineup change, because that's something bigger. So early in the season, I would have liked to have seen Nas playing more and eating into Roko's minutes, and especially Larry Nance Jr. as well. The deeper we get into the season, the more you gotta look at making more drastic changes if holding him accountable that way isn't having any impact, if he's still not helping the team enough because he's kind of mopey and not defending well, which is his biggest strength. So,
and I've been saying this all season, I don't feel like Nurk and Roko mesh well together. So maybe something can be different there. But I also feel like Roko, as near 0-12 points out, wouldn't be good off the bench. So I don't know what you do there. But near 0-12 also says you can't start Nas. We need him off the bench. We needed energy right from the start of this game. We had none of the. I mean, I felt like we got good shots and like none of them went down. We ended up in a hole early. I don't think our offense was bad, even though we only had 2 points like 6 minutes into the game or something like that. But as far as Kyle's point goes, I mean, we could have just started Nas in this game and seen what happened, and maybe something good might have happened with him right off the jump. But yeah, I mean, he came in and he actually made a difference. We got back into the game, and he was hustling. He had a great block on Jokic tonight. He was playing good on both ends, I felt like, until in the second half he took some bad shots. But other than that, I feel like he could have been the answer if we started him in this game and rewarded him for his energy the past few games. And that goes back to the accountability thing. Like, you have a guy hustling his butt out there, reward him with the start. And it's not saying anything bad about Ant. I just felt like starting Ant in this game and keeping the three guards was kind of doomed us from the beginning.
Yeah, and here's the thing about your point. We don't have enough energy, guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we need more energy, guys. That's kind of my takeaway, because it's like we need Nas's energy off the bench, but then we need his energy in the starting lineup. It's a situation where we just need more energy, guys. We don't have enough guys that bring energy. And like,
yeah, it should.
What, just, yeah, but I mean, that's the problem, is too many games where we come out flat with the starting lineup. So shout out to Jason Lee, $2 dono. If Gary Trent Jr. plays well tomorrow, Casual's gonna roast Norm. They shouldn't, but people will say things just to say things. Appreciate the $2 dono, Jason. Quick turnaround tomorrow with that one. We'll see if they come out with energy at home on the second night of a back-to-back. That's gonna be interesting.
I haven't seen anything. Maybe someone has seen an update, but there is Dame is just day to day, so there is a possibility Dame could play tomorrow, and he should be fresh since he didn't play today. Yeah,
I mean, hopefully. But that's the thing. It's like, if we lose this game, we come out play hard, and just missing Dame is too much for us to handle. That's that.
Right.
I'm not sitting here ranting like this. Like I didn't rant game one opening night. We lost to the Kings. I mean, there was some issues for sure, but overall, like, our energy was good. It's just when we do ridiculous stuff, silly stuff, like going under screens on good shooters, and then we don't try, that's the stuff that really gets to me. That's the stuff that really frustrates me. And that's the stuff that's unacceptable.
Well, let me just say this. So Michael Ranella says, "Don't forget, Eric, you're the one who said it's not a roster issue, or if it was a roster issue, would come out and say it. How much longer until we hear that from you?" Man, I got these jokers in my mentions on Twitter after like 11, 12 games saying, "Oh, are you going to admit you're wrong?" Whatever. When Dame had like the worst stretch, if Dame was just Dame so far this season, we'd be well above 500, and even with all these problems. So I will admit it when it becomes the issue. Okay. So I still don't believe it's an issue. I will gladly admit it when I'm wrong this season if we are not a top 4 seed. I have guaranteed that. That was part of my thing. And so when it becomes obvious we are not going to be a top 4 seed, then I will admit I was wrong about this roster. But I'm frustrated also because I'm being called out for stuff that isn't roster-related problems, like we've spent the whole time in the show discussing why it's not a roster problem. But yeah.
And he just didn't hear it.
Someone people just expect me to freaking be like, oh, you know what? We're playing like absolute crap. We have the worst effort and defensive game plans that I've seen in a while. But that means I was wrong about the roster, right? Because it's not. I don't know, man. Come on.
Man, dude, we can't defend with these three guards, like we are going under every screen and letting them shoot threes on the perimeter, and obviously we're just too small inside to be able to deal with that. Like, it doesn't add up. The problem is there's a lot of people that want it to be a roster issue so bad.
Right.
Like, just try and analyze what's going out there on the court, man, because too many people get too stuck on the narrative that's the roster and then don't connect the narrative with what's actually happening on the court. You know what I mean? Like, they'll give up a bunch of threes because they're going under picks, and people will sit there and say, see, it's the roster. They're not connecting what reality is showing them, which is going under screens and they're hitting threes because of it, to their narrative, which is the roster. So that's the thing, is our analysis has never been narrative based. It's been based on what happens. It's been based on the action that plays out there on the court. That's why it gets so frustrating having people say, see, it told you it was the roster. Like, dude, like, we legitimately just try and analyze what we see, and I've said that multiple times. Like, too many people just try and fit certain things to the roster being too undersized. It's like when Paul George was 10 for 24, had 24 points on 24 shots, and people were saying, see, it's just the Blazers' lack of size. They can't deal with a Paul George. He was 10 for 24 because Norm played great defense on him, and most of Paul George's buckets came against a bigger Robert Covington. So, like, that...
And we switched every pick on that
And
game.
we were switching every pick, switching into mismatches, doing all this silly stuff that was giving them easy opportunities that wasn't due to height, and people just say, oh, well, it's because they don't have anybody to guard Paul George because they're too small. But that's not what happened. That's not what reality showed you. So that's the problem, is people are so hooked to a narrative and they want it so bad to be true that they don't actually, like, pay attention to the reasons we're struggling on defense or on offense, because they want that narrative to be true. Like, we're not in this for narratives. This isn't First Take on ESPN.
Well, and then the other stupid thing is, so the Blazers, they beat Memphis. I forgot who else they beat at home. They beat the Clippers, right? And we were 3-2 heading out of that road trip, right? And you heard nothing about the roster, right? Because our defense was top 10. Our offense was top 10. Everything's going good, right? Then we go and lose a couple of games, or I think we lost all 3 games on that road trip. And then everyone's like, see, told you it was the roster, idiot, And then we come home, we win 2 games at home. We're back up to 500. We look really good. We let Indiana come back a couple times, but we still end up blowing them out. We blow out the Lakers the next night. And then nothing about the roster. No one's complaining. No one's telling me, hey, Eric, want to admit you're wrong now? And then we go out on the road. We told you guys this was going to be a very difficult road trip. 2-2, I would have been happy with. We had to get one, in my opinion, against the Clippers, Phoenix, or Denver. We ended up losing all 3 of those. But that doesn't. We also didn't play well in any of those games. So it's just weird. Like, we go from, when we play well, we play the way exactly like you and I think we are capable of. It's crickets. And then when we don't play that way and we get destroyed by a team, we see all these people coming out of the woodwork trying to tell us we're wrong, when if you listen to us, we're telling you exactly why we feel like we're not wrong, and it's okay.
I just want to talk about this one comment, sorry. But, this is the frustrating thing for you and for me, is we'll literally try and paint it as simple as possible, and we still got people like Taj Scott that'll come into chat and say, so it's coaching again? You guys are insane. You can't coach effort. Nobody freaking said you can coach effort. I literally painted it out like 10 minutes ago, but people just come in here and don't listen.
I mean, I had a pretty epic rant.
I legitimately said, like, the players are responsible for the effort they give. The coaching is responsible for if they hold their lack of effort accountable. You can't coach effort, but you can hold effort accountable. That's two different things. And I painted that out perfectly, and people were coming in here like thinking we're saying you can coach effort. Like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? It's just people that disagree with the narrative on the roster, so they don't actually even listen to anything that's being said. So it's not even a conversation. It's just people like, you guys don't think the roster sucks? You're insane. It's just, that's why I've been like, this season, I feel like I've been kind of snippy with chat, and I've always tried not to be. I mean, last year we had Mellow Stand, so that was kind of my, those moments last year. But it's just, we're getting so much stuff like that. Just listen and just actually talk about what we're talking about, because I never said you can coach effort, but you can hold it accountable. And if anybody argues that, oh, you can't hold effort accountable by playing somebody less if they're not trying, then why do teams even have a coach in the first place? I don't understand that. So,
and yeah, I don't know. I kind of disagree with the fact that effort can't be coached, because like I said, you just don't play the people. You don't get minutes if you don't give effort. It's just that simple. And people either step in line and give effort then, or they don't play. It's that simple. So I think it can be coached, actually. So
yeah, and here's what I said earlier, because Tosh Scott says, how exactly do you hold 3 of the 5 starters accountable? Bench 3 starters? That's the problem, man. Well, Dame effort-wise hasn't been bad. Norm has his moments, but I wouldn't say he's been bad or terrible.
He gets pouty at times.
He gets pouty,
overall,
but
it's good.
yeah, and nobody's saying to bench him and not play him, just reduce their minutes or call him out on it. And people say Nurkic's effort has been horrible, but he's been one of the best defensive big men in the entire league. Like, he's been really, really good defensively. The effort issues are with Rocco, and lately it's been with CJ, but when we were preaching accountability and preaching an aggressive defensive identity at the start of the season, the first 7 games, CJ was given the most effort I've ever seen him give on defense. So what changed? What changed? That's my issue with that take. Like, there's situations where Rocco's not playing with effort and he's playing 40 minutes. Guess what? He should be playing no more than 20, and Nas should be playing more if he's going out there and not hustling. Because here's the thing, when you got an energy guy on the court, it can be kind of contagious. You need somebody with energy to set the tone. The problem is a lot of times the starting lineup doesn't have that. For the starting lineup, they just need 5 guys that give consistent effort. Maybe aren't hustle guys, maybe aren't doing a bunch of crazy stuff in the energy department, but guys that go out there and at least play hard enough to get the job done. But if you got a role player like a Robert Covington not doing that, sub in an energy guy for them and see if that sparks the starting lineup. But like, for the most part, we haven't. Rocco will come out here and not play hard and still play 40 minutes. And that's on Chauncey for playing him too much and not holding him accountable enough and not playing an energy guy to maybe spark the starting lineup. Nobody's saying you can coach effort, but you can do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been very ranty today.
I'm just sick of having to say the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Let's look at the team stats, Eric, because this will make things better for us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. 52%. This is like 3 games in a row. Teams have shot 52% from the field, 48% from 3. That's what you get when you're going under screens. The thing is we sucked rebounding today, which hasn't been an issue. We were the best defensive rebounding team in the league coming into tonight, despite playing a small lineup. So this, lack of size, lack of height hasn't hurt us there. And a big reason why is Yusuf Nurkic is rebounding the ball extremely well right now. But we get crushed on the offensive glass. That just made things worse. When we struggled to make some shots, they were hitting shots, and then you add on the rebounds, and that's how you get a 29-point loss. Assists, 22. I thought when we moved the ball tonight, we got some solid looks. There were stretches where I thought the ball movement was actually really nice, but it wasn't often enough. There were a lot of possessions in which we were extremely stagnant. It's kind of a mixed bag in that department, and I feel like the more we moved the ball, there was a correlation with getting better shots and making more shots. Do you agree?
Yeah, and when we get to a certain person's player card, I'll go more in depth on something that I noticed in this game.
Yep. And then turnover-wise, it was okay. Pretty even there. Fast break points 9-9. When you're not hitting shots, you got to try and get out and run. This team doesn't try and get out and run enough, in my opinion. Part of that is to get fast break opportunities, you should play a more aggressive defense. Maybe a defense that forces more turnovers, and that's how you can spark runouts. But still, even on makes, on misses, you push the pace, see what you can get early. And I don't think we do enough of that when we're struggling to make shots.
And I believe they were one of the worst, if not the worst, teams in terms of protecting the rim and points in the paint. And so to only get 36 points in the paint is just really bad in this one.
Yep, agreed. Fouls even. Look at our largest lead, Eric. Phenomenal.
Yep, didn't have one.
phenomenal. Let's get into the player cards. Let me pull up. Actually, I don't know if I have them ready.
But bottom line, though,
right now.
Denver was hovering around 50% from three this entire game. And if you're not going to do anything to get them off the 3-point line, there's not much we're gonna do ever in this game.
Yep. I don't have the player cards ready yet, so anything else you want to touch upon to stall for me right
now? Everyone's talking about how terrible Nurk was, and so just for the record, just as a general thing, almost everyone was bad in this game. So Nurk was bad, CJ was bad, Rocco was bad, Norm was pretty bad. I don't know. Like everyone was bad in this one. So it's not like we're saying it's not players don't need to play better and it's not on them at all. They were all bad tonight, and they all, when we talk about effort, it's obviously the players not giving effort. So I don't like when people say that we're never going to blame the roster when literally if we're saying the effort wasn't there, that is a problem that the players on the court are having.
I legitimately have been questioning the mental makeup of this team and saying maybe the roster doesn't have enough energy guys. Maybe, we have too many guys that aren't able to lock in. Like I've been questioning this roster this stream. That's why it's frustrating when you have people come in here and say, you guys will never hold the roster construction accountable. I literally have done it in this stream. It's just not the way people want it. People want me to scream, too many guards and too little height. Like that's just if they don't hear that, then we never hold it accountable. So that's frustrating.
Michael Ranella wants us to have the worst defense of all time instead of the second worst defense of all time.
What does he want us to do?
He wants us to trade Nurkic for Bull. Makes no sense, man.
Michael, I'm not trying to be mean, man, but that's horrible. that's horrible. I gotta drop a video on how overhated Nurkic has been this season. He's been overhated. He's been a really good defensive player. Bull is a bad defensive player. People want Rashawn Holmes, an undersized center, a smaller like we don't have enough height, but let's trade Nurkic for Rashawn Holmes, who's a bad defender. Like I don't get it.
How long is it going to be before the cards are ready?
Yeah, it's ready right now. You just
okay.
You just want to dive in. You want to ignore chat right now.
No, I was gonna. I'll wait for the Nurk card.
All right.
Because I.
Oh yeah. I shouldn't be talking too much about Nurk. Let's talk about CJ.
I want to say, yeah.
What are your thoughts on CJ? He was 5 for 10 from 3. He was only 2 for 7 inside the arc. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't horrible, but he didn't create enough for others, which normally with Dame out, when he's been the point guard, he's done a really good job of facilitating the offense, but he wasn't the starting point guard today. They started Anthony Simons. I think they should have started Nasir Little and gone with CJ at the point, and maybe you would have seen the CJ that's normally played without Dame in past games.
Here's my problem. On a night when you don't have Dame, CJ has to have the mentality to be a distributor. And there was a play in the second half where he loses the ball, kind of slips, and still grabs the ball and tries to do like a one-footed turnaround. Like he wasn't even looking at the hoop, and he didn't have the ball in the shooting pocket and just hucks it up and barely nicks the rim. It's like so frustrating. And then he had a couple possessions where he'll make a basket and then he'll drive into the defense. And Denver knows that CJ's going to do this, so they send an extra defender. So he's got 2 guys on him. And instead of just using that and recognizing that you can use those skills to find an open man. He just dribbles into the defender, gets tied up one time, gets stripped the next time. It's frustrating that on a night when we need him to be that distributor, that he doesn't show up in that department. And I mean, he only takes 17 shots, but part of that's because, he didn't play the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and most of his threes he hit were on out of plays or catch and shoot off someone else driving and kicking out to him. And it's frustrating to time and time see that work and to not have both Chauncey and our coach, or Chauncey and CJ, recognize that this guy either needs to play like a distributor when he's driving, or he needs to play off the ball in catch and shoot situations. And I don't want to see him ISOing unless it's a last resort in plays, which is fine to do occasionally. It just seems like we're doing that too much. He started off the game with a very nice pass to an open Ant for a three-pointer, and I thought maybe this was going to be a good game from him. But Ant unfortunately missed a wide open three, which he missed several open threes tonight. But yeah, it's just, we cannot have CJ playing this selfishly if we're going to be a better team in the future. So it's just frustrating to me that he comes in a game where we need him to be the distributor that Dame normally is, and he wasn't that tonight.
I feel like we flip-flop on CJ. We're like, one game I'm criticizing him, you're saying, oh, but Chauncey needs to be running this, and then the next game it's the opposite. Because it's like, they don't, what they run it leads into ISO situations or pick and roll situations, right?
Yeah.
Or one of our main plays is to screen away from the ball for a guard to then come towards the middle of the court and catch the ball on the three-point line.
Yeah.
And I like that because it gives them a chance to maybe have a driving lane to create, but the problem is we don't run anything off of that. So if he's not able to drive straight off of that, it's an ISO situation or it's a pick and roll. Our horn sets, this is how you know a horn set. Normally there's, you got the point guard, you got the shooting guard, you got the point guard with the ball, you got the shooting guard and the small forward in both corners, and then you got the 4 and the 5 man at the elbows. The elbow area is the side of the key, the corner between the free throw line and the side of the key. And they'll pass to one of those guys and run some sort of action. You have a bunch of different variances of that, and most teams run horn sets. They just, run it a little bit differently, but in my opinion, we don't have enough action off that. We don't have enough wrinkles off that. Too often that results in CJ coming for a handoff, and then it's an ISO situation. You know what I mean? It's he needs to do a better job of not forcing dumb shots out of ISO situations and looking for teammates more and being more of a facilitator and learning how to pick his spots. I think he's doing a worse job this year of finding his, making decisions in regards to shoot the ball or pass the ball. I think he did better last year in that regard. But it's also a situation where we have to run offense. Why don't we have a couple sets to try and get him catch and shoot 3-point looks? I'm sure we run them every once in a while. We don't run them enough. Too much of our offense involves CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard or Anthony Simons catching the ball on the perimeter, and it breaks down into an ISO situation.
Yeah, and so Near 012 mentions this, so I was going to wait till Dennis Smith Jr., but bring it up here because it applies to CJ too. CJ has better handles. He's got better moves than Dennis Smith Jr. But Dennis Smith Jr. comes in the game and immediately gets 5 assists in 9 minutes in the first half, and he matched our whole starting lineup in the first half with assists. And it's because he breaks down the defense and looks to kick out in those situations. And I feel like if CJ just did that, he could be an unstoppable player, because after a while, what happens with Dennis Smith Jr. is they start to not put as much attention to him and stay home on the shooters because they know he's looking to pass first. And if CJ just did that first, where he got the defense to stay home before the defense, what they always do is collapse, then once they stay home, CJ's won, and he will kill those kind of defenses if they don't provide as much help as they normally do, and if they don't ever adjust and stop playing off the shooters, then CJ can just drive in the middle of the paint and kick out to open shooters the whole game, I feel like. And so I don't understand why this is just so difficult for CJ, but we see a guy who can't shoot at all come in and basically just completely show him up in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tough time when it comes to a dude with a ton of scoring ability to comparing him to a guy with hardly any scoring ability. But yeah, CJ can definitely do a better job. Shout out to Shaggy Squid, $2 Australian dono. He says Ant can replace CJ in my opinion, and it won't cost $30 million. Anthony Simons is not as good as CJ McCollum. That's just true. But the better Ant plays, the more expendable CJ is, and the more I would want to trade CJ. So for the cost, I mean, here's the thing: Anthony Simons is probably going to be making about $20 million a year next season. So is that better than CJ for $30 million? Maybe. I'd probably lean towards yes, at least Anthony Simons next season. But I don't know. I don't want to sit here and like. We criticize his style of play, Eric. He's still an extremely talented player. Mm-hmm. And he's still capable of being an above-average defender. We saw it the first 7 games this year. He just has to embrace it. And I don't know if he will. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that is, even if there is some drop-off between Ant and CJ, you would theoretically have someone else in the lineup as well. So
yeah, I mean, that's why
who knows what
with that. Yeah. So shout out Portland 2 Fresh for a $5 dono. He says CJ is a better version of Jordan Clarkson. Changed my mind. Dude's play style fits with the bench way better than the starting lineup. My opinion, he's not a starter. He already plays with the bench.
Plays with the bench, dude.
He already plays with the freaking bench. And I don't.
So I never get that argument.
I wouldn't say he plays better with the bench than he does with the starting lineup. Because he plays with the bench and he plays with the starting lineup. And no player who's like a 22-point per game scorer on solid efficiency and almost elite jump shooting ability, who can also get you 4 assists, almost got 5 assists per game last year and can handle the ball. Like, no player like that is coming off the bench. There is not a single player in the league who's as good as CJ McCollum who's coming off the bench. So I just don't agree with that. And he already plays with the bench. So if you say, like, that's the thing is, if you think he shouldn't be starting, then you're just saying he shouldn't be playing more than about like 30, 32 minutes a game. So you're thinking he should have his playing time cut because he's already playing with the bench.
Yeah. Yeah. And like to Trevin's point, it seems like he ISOs way more with the bench. So he doesn't do as much ISO stuff when like Dame is in the game. So all you're doing by taking him out of the starting lineup is changing the times of the game he plays. It's not like it's and those aren't really that drastically different other than the first and third quarter right at the beginning he's not playing. So yeah. I just don't think that's the answer here.
Yeah, and like CJ in a different situation is probably an even better player if he's kind of the number one perimeter guy. Like, I think CJ in Philadelphia would, like, they wouldn't be saying he's a bench player. They'd love CJ McCollum. That's exactly who they need. It's just, I mean, obviously the fit, like, CJ would be better in Philadelphia than he is here if he was kind of the number one perimeter guy and able to run a lot of pick and rolls with Embiid. Obviously Dame runs a lot of pick and rolls, so CJ would kind of be that guy in Philly. So, you know, I'm not saying it's a perfect fit. I don't think it's as bad of a fit or destined to be as bad of a fit as some people say. I just think you need to get CJ to buy into the defense and hold him accountable for that. I mean, the first 7 games of the season, CJ was an above average defender and he was playing hard on that end. I don't know. It's like, if it's a situation, Eric, where if you have to like just focus so heavily on defense and that's all you can focus on in practice sessions and film sessions, and you have to like do a really good job of holding him accountable just to make him a slightly above average defender, then I don't know. That's kind of discouraging in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Scott Bossy with a great donation, $14 Canadian dollars. He says, do you worry CJ's ISOs rub off on others? I see others afraid to pass because the ball won't come back. I worry for a guy like Ant. That's all he sees, shoot first mentality. Do you want to comment on that before I go in?
It's probably, honestly. But also, it's like a lot of those situations, it's somebody has to ISO because we're not in anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. That was going to be my point. And during the game, for those that watch Blazers coverage, Lamar Hurd mentioned how we have no diver. There's no one in the dive spot, which means like a cut baseline or whatever. So until I see that happen, it's hard to 100% blame the ISOs rubbing off on others because it's not like they're open. Most of them are just standing around watching. If, say, Nas cuts to the basket and there's no one there, there was one time in a transition where CJ missed him. Yeah, that's on CJ. But like most of the time when CJ ISOs, there's not a wide open cutter. And if there was, then that's when you can start being like, look, CJ, you're ISOing. If you just look up, you have Nas cutting wide over the basket here. It's an easy lay-in or dunk, and you missed him. Like, that's unacceptable. But all the guys just stand around watching. It's the same thing I said all of the last 2 seasons with Carmelo Anthony, is that we not only have to ISO post up him like 10 times a game, but we just stand around. We have no action off it. The other 4 players literally just go to the other side of the court and be like, okay, Melo's going to shoot. Well, no crap, he's going to shoot. Why don't you go get an offensive rebound or cut to the basket so if he has doesn't have a shot, he has a passing lane or something. But we don't do any of that stuff. So until I see us running better off-action stuff in the times that CJ does ISO or in the possessions leading up to him feeling like he has to, I don't think it necessarily is a case where it's rubbing off on others. I feel like it's just, once again, on our coaching staff to not let that happen. Like, just get into sets. Have it, like, when CJ's coming up the court, say, I want to run this set or whatever. And if he can't handle that, then he shouldn't have the freedom to run the offense. He should be off ball like we've been talking about this whole time. So, I don't know. I feel like, yes, it probably does rub off on others if you have a player like that, because we talked about when no one else touches the ball, you don't have a feel for it. The next time you shoot, you're not as comfortable because you haven't touched the ball in like 2 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, that can definitely have an impact. But I just feel like we're doing such a disservice with our ISOs by not having any action off of them either. And it's kind of like what you were saying about the pick and rolls and the dribble handoffs. Yes, that's good. It can usually lead to a good shot. But when it doesn't, what are you doing then? Then we're like lost and stuff. And it's the same problems we've had under Stotts that we're seemingly having right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get through these because we got this interview.
Yeah. CJ
we could talk. I'm just saying it because we could talk about CJ for another 30 minutes. It's always a conversation around CJ. There's always a lot of he's the hot topic guy and has been for quite a while. Let's talk about Tony Snell should not be next. It's gonna do this where it's like not sorted. Let me try and figure that out. Yeah, I don't know why it does that, man. Let me just pull it up manually. I like being able to toggle the slideshow, but I can't. All right, Anthony Simons is up next. He got the start for Dame tonight. 28 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. You like the assist number there. Only 1 turnover. He's been struggling to hit threes. He had some nice drives today, 5 for 6 inside the arc. It's crazy how much better he is as a slasher attacking the rim. It might be the most improved skill on the entire team so far this season.
Torrey, he had a baseline cut. What was I just talking about? Mm-hmm. Baseline cut, Nance with the ball up top, finds him under the hoop, wide open dunk, right? How many other times did he see him cut the rest of the game? Like, this is what we're talking about. Yep. Like, if you have a spot, you have, CJ who can pass, you have Dame who can pass. You have Nance who can pass, you have Zeller who can pass, you have Nurk who can pass. Norm has shown that, he doesn't pass a lot, but he can pass if someone's open. Nas can pass a little bit. Why do we not have more cutters? Like, it's so infuriating that you can see something like that where they're expecting Ant to come up to the 3-point line because that's what our guards always do. And all he has to do is like, oh, wait, there's no one between me and the basket. And he's just like cuts there and he's wide open. And when you have good passers all around, it's like I don't understand why we have no sets or actions designed to go towards the basket like that. And that wasn't even a design thing. I think he just freelanced it. But yeah, it's like, get this guy going to the rim more often, catch the ball on the move instead of having to, most of his drives are having to break down a defense and get to the rim on his own. But like, it would just improve our efficiency, and our offense has not been as efficient as it has in the past. And partly is because we're not getting any kind of easy baskets at all going to the rim, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Chauncey has to try and teach these guys how to cut because cutting hasn't been emphasized for these guys who have been here in Portland in previous seasons. That's the thing. Larry Nance Jr. would be a phenomenal cutter if we cut more, if we looked for cutters, if we, had more motion and more movement with our players in the offense. Larry Nance Jr. can also pass the ball. So, I mean, you saw it on that Anthony Simons cut. So with more cutters, he becomes a more useful player, being a 4 that can pass the ball and play make a little bit. So that's the thing. Like, that's why I really like the Nance pickup, is because I'm sitting here thinking we're going to have more movement and he's going to fit in perfectly with the bench lineup, and then he's a really good defensive player, and we're stagnant. So a guy like him isn't going, like Nance isn't going to create one-on-one, and if there's no cutters, he's just catching the ball and just passing it to the next guy who then just ISOs. So he's not as useful in that sort of system, in that sort of situation. And these guys don't cut enough. There's too many times where you'll see like Nasir Little even sit in the corner when somebody drives, and his man will help up onto the drive guy, and if Nasir Little just cut, that's just a lob right over the top of his guy who's running towards the ball. That's just a lob over the top. That's a dunk. Or it can even be a bounce pass, cutting baseline. And I've complained about this with this team for years. Like I remember arguing with people who said, Al-Farouq Aminu isn't a good enough 3-point shooter. They can just help off him. And I'm sitting there, and players are helping off him when Al-Farouq Aminu's in the corner, and if he would just cut, he would get a layup or a dunk. Mm-hmm. So it's like you don't even necessarily have to be a great shooter. You just cut there. You just have to cut. And, people blamed Al-Farouq Aminu for us losing the Pelican series, even though he shot 43%. So some of it was just narrative based and ignoring what actually happened out on the court. This fan base has a history of that with some people, but that's the thing, is just cut. Just cut baseline. That's the most basic cut to make. We need to learn how to cut. We need to learn how to freelance. We need to learn how to set off ball screens that aren't structured, man. It's not even a hard thing to do. It's just something that has to be emphasized. And if players aren't doing it, then you hold them accountable in film sessions. You maybe cut their minutes. If it's somebody like CJ and you want him to, look for certain cuts and set screens for people and then work off of that and get his shots through the offense that way, and he just grabs the ball and hijacks it, right? Then you play him less minutes. Then you maybe sit him down for 2 minutes, talk to him, say, you're going ISO heavy. You need to look for your buckets this way. You need to do these things. Right? Same thing goes for an Anthony Simons. Same thing even goes for a Damian Lillard even. It goes for every player on the roster. And then if players aren't embracing that, and if players are refusing to do that, then you have to talk about trading them. And that's where you talk about changing the roster, in my opinion. So, it kind of got back to CJ, but I don't even know where this take started. But
like John Sherman says, great point. Even if the off-ball screens aren't great, it'll still shift and confuse the other team. And that's exactly what happens to us, right? They have some off-ball action, and then we get mixed up, and then all of a sudden 2 people are going, or one time tonight we had 3 people go to one guy, and then someone's wide open for a dunk under the hoop for a wide open 3. So just the more action you run, the more movement you have, the more chances the defense has of messing up. And that's what you want to create, is some sort of situation. It's like the same in football. Like, the more routes and different creative things you run, and the more different formations you have, and the more you can confuse the defense pre-snap, like the better chances you have of someone being open. So, yeah, it's just I agree with that. Like, we just need more of this movement, and it's once again something that we were told was going to happen this year.
Yep, agreed. Let's try and get through the final. We got, I think, 8 more. Let's try and get through them in the next 10 minutes. I don't know if that's possible.
Let's go fast. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's rapid fire these. Norman Powell, thoughts on Norm tonight?
He was okay. I kind of like that Chauncey went with a second unit with it was DSJ and Norm at the beginning of the second and fourth quarter, but then we got destroyed both those times, so I was like, okay. But I've kind of wanted to see Ant and Powell with a bigger 3-4-5. And tonight we saw that a little bit. We saw DSJ instead of Ant, but at least we got to see it kind of. But overall, I feel like, the minus 29 was definitely because of those 2 periods. But Powell, he had some good moments, some aggressive moments. I think he's probably unhappy with the amount of shots he's getting, especially in a night when Dame's not there too. So maybe we've got to find a way to get him some once again, cut to the basket or something, or do something different.
Action for a catch and shoot 3. It's just stuff that we should be running for everybody, and it's stuff that they could run through freelance if they focused on it and really embraced it, and it was emphasized by the coaching staff, and the coaching staff held players accountable for playing that sort of basketball. So that's the thing. Golden State does all that stuff, and a lot of times it's not even a set play, and I don't know, like, you have to have smart players, so maybe some of it's the roster not being able to do that, but I think if it was being emphasized more, we'd see it more. So I don't think it's being emphasized enough.
Yeah.
Let's move on and talk about Naz. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Kind of becoming a guy who fills up the stat sheet a little bit. 3 for 8 from 3. Nice to see him hit some threes. 4 for 12 inside the arc 1 for 4 inside the arc, 4 for 12 overall. Brought the energy tonight. I thought was maybe our best defensive player tonight. Hit some threes. I feel like you look at him going 4 for 12 and only 1 for 4 inside the arc. If we utilized him more as a cutter, if we had we should once a game, Eric. We should run a backdoor lob set for him and maybe switch it up, like out of a timeout at least, or something.
Or what about that play that got him an open free throw line jumper last game? Mm-hmm. We don't run that for anyone else, nor like why don't we try to get like CJ or Norm or Nas another one of those since he made it last time, And then I talked about last post-game show, all the stuff you can do out of that. So in the first half, he had that drive where he kind of threw the ball at the hoop and airballed it on a runner. I think we ended up getting it back on that possession maybe, but that wasn't a good shot. But then I think he hit a 3 shortly thereafter. And then there was a play out of a timeout where he got Campazzo switched on him and just took him down low and finished inside. That was his 1 2-point field goal. He had another one in the second half where he had a nice move but settled for like a 15-foot baseline jumper that he missed, but that wasn't like a terrible shot. But I felt like other than the open threes, he kind of forced some tonight. Some of them were garbage time, so it didn't really matter. But there was that one also at the end of the quarter where he had to throw it up. But yes, none of the plays I mentioned. So I just mentioned half his shots, and none of them were off of cuts or action to get him going to the hoop, like you mentioned. And I think that's going to continue to be the reason why this guy isn't completely breaking out if he has to basically struggle to get every point he gets other than open 3-point shots.
Yeah, but in the end, he's our most energetic guy on the roster.
He should have started tonight. Yeah, I think that was... I get what Chauncey was trying to do, but against this team, I think we needed Nas out there from the beginning of the game, and it might have set the tempo to where we didn't have this effort or lack thereof tonight. And so I thought that was a huge misstep by Billups to start him in this game, or to not start him.
Yep, I agree. Cody Zeller, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 8 minutes. He's barely been playing, but 3 for 3 from the field. Maybe it's time to revisit giving him a little bit more PT. I don't know, man. It's kind of, his season has been kind of weird.
Yeah, he was playing okay. I mean, Jokic is a lot stronger than him, so he's kind of backing him down. But then he's foolishly reached down low and fouled him, and then Jokic gets an and one. And you just can't make that mistake against Jokic in the post. But yeah, other than that, I felt like he was showing and recovering better than he has in probably 10 games. He was doing that well the first couple games, and then that has also regressed. But in this game, I saw him do that a little better than he had been recently, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. But yeah, obviously he didn't get much of a chance in this one.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see where his role goes from here. Larry Nance Jr. plays 20 minutes, 5 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 2 for 4 from the field. Hit a free throw line jumper, which was nice to see. Kind of a quiet game from him, though.
Yep, until we find a way to utilize him either around the hoop as a cutter as well or as a passer more. Still feel like it's going to be kind of inconsistent when we look at his numbers.
Agreed. Dennis Smith Jr. was very solid tonight. Had 5 assists in his first 9 minutes. Played some solid on-ball D. Had 3 steals. Had 4 points. Got to the line. Knocked down a couple free throws. Also hit a mid-range jumper in his 23 minutes. What were your thoughts on DSJ?
Yeah, I really like when he comes in and just plays good defense, and also the way he sets up the offense. Felt like he made a lot of nice passes, kind of got us back in the game for a minute. And yeah, I think he could be one of those energy guys we're talking about. Because we talked about this with the turnovers, like not forcing as many, not being aggressive on defense leads you to not have a lot of transition points and stuff like that. So him coming in and getting some steals or putting some pressure on opposing guards, I think could help that a little bit.
Agreed. Let's move on and talk about Yusuf Nurkic, who had a pretty quiet game today. 21 minutes, 2 for 5 from the field, 4.6 boards. You said you were waiting for his player card to say something about him. What was that, Eric?
So, I mean, he wasn't good tonight. So, those that say that I saw someone on a Portland Trailblazers Twitter post today comment, "Oh yeah, look how terrible Blazers Uprise All-Star Yusuf Nurkic is tonight."
Because we don't absolutely hate him and eviscerate him.
Yeah. So, for the record, coming into tonight, Yusuf Nurkic had the highest defensive Raptor in the entire NBA. Number 1, which is, I mean, he was slightly higher than Rudy Gobert. So,
and by all means, that's like the best defensive analytic, is what I've heard.
It might not be the best, but it's a decent metric. I mean, there's some outliers in there, but that's not an outlier with Nurkic. And he is. I'm just gonna say it, I don't like his Twitter comments after last game. I don't like his when things aren't going well. I don't like his poutiness. And hopefully that's a situation where Billups can get the most out of him.
Yeah.
But I'm still a little frustrated if I'm Nurkic that all the things that were said things that were said by our coach are not coming to fruition.
Well, also, I think the fan hatred is getting to him.
Right.
All the stupid fans that say ridiculously dumb stuff about Yusuf Nurkic, I think is getting to him. So you guys get so frustrated with Nurkic playing bad. Why don't you stop shooting yourselves in the foot and being toxic? Because he's hearing it. Maybe not from you, but from the other guy. From someone else. There's been so much hatred. I guarantee you he's hearing it. And Taylor Packer says, did y'all see the instant comment he liked? Basically him mad about Portland fans bagging on him and whatnot. There's a difference between criticizing him, saying he can do something better or do this or do that. But you get people in here. I mean, we hit this message. Realids said, he's ass. Cameron says, Nurkic is a baby. Like, it's not good. Don't be ridiculous. He's been really good defensively this year. He's finishing at a career high. And people were like acting like he's the worst thing and like regressed. He's finishing better than ever. He's defending as well as he ever has. He was averaging a career high 1.5 steals per game for a center, only playing 25 minutes. When we play an aggressive defensive scheme, he runs it almost perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and all of a sudden, the last few games, we haven't been aggressive, and Nurk is mad, right? And, and things go down south, right? Yeah. So here's, once again, we try to not only just say that, right, but we try to back it up with why we feel that way, and we try to hopefully teach you guys. So Jokic is the MVP. He's once again having a phenomenal season. That guy is very, very, very difficult to stop by yourself one-on-one. We give Nurkic no help in the post. And so they started posting Jokic up in the second quarter. Nurk plays him pretty tough. He shoots like a 6 to 7 foot fadeaway hook shot that rims in. And then the next play, he kind of spins baseline and Nurk doesn't fully contest it. And so he shoots flat-footed, which isn't necessarily a bad defensive effort from Nurk. Nurk's basically saying, I'll give you that versus taking it inside and scoring on me. And especially when Nurk has 2 fouls in that situation, you don't want him to get caught with a third foul because Jokic is very good at faking 2 and then drawing contact. So, and then they went to it like a third time later on, and then Zeller came in and got posted up and stuff. But this happened in the Philadelphia game last year where we won without all our players, right? We just basically let Embiid do that. And then what happened? Like we were talking about with the donation earlier, like no one else on the 76ers touched the ball the whole first half, and Embiid had like 30-some at halftime. And we're like, oh, great, he's going to have 60 on us or whatever. But then like all the rest of our players were ice cold in the second half because they had no rhythm. But what did we see tonight? This was a case where everyone who came in the game was just seemingly on fire, and that's because Jokic had 7 assists in the first few minutes of this game and was getting all his teammates involved. So to have him post up and have to work for 5-6 seconds to get a tough basket or to make a shot, if I'm the Blazers, I'm living with that. As long as he's not passing to a wide open shooter and getting threes out of that and racking up the assists, because he only had a couple assists the rest of the entire game. And now he was hitting a lot of his shots and he made a lot of threes, which we probably could have done a better job of contesting. So I'm not saying we played him perfectly. We did not at all. But in my mind, if you're a bad defense and you're having trouble with rotations, leaving shooters wide open, you live with Nurkic one-on-one defending Jokic. If he scores, he scores. If he misses, he misses. And you just limit the amount of open shots the rest of the guys hit, and eventually they would get cold if you kept allowing that. And I think that's a good strategy. But people just say, oh, Nurkic got abused in the post, he sucks, and that's not really necessarily the case. Yeah, he can play a little better defense in those situations, but I felt like he did fine in those. And in terms of pick and roll defense, he's still by far our best pick and roll defender in terms of helping the guards navigate through those screens, not automatically switching, pressing up on those, showing and recovering. He is really, really good at all those things. And then when the guard messes up and doesn't get through the screen and just automatically switches, and people like Jared Allen and Frank Kaminsky score on an easier guy, and then people look at the box score and be like, oh, Frank Kaminsky had 31 points, Nurk sucks, even though like only 5 of those points were on Nurkic. I just feel like people don't understand how important he is to this defense, and the fact that he's not really playing much. Like, who knows what would happen in the fourth quarter of this game? But like, I don't know. I feel like our defense has struggled as we've gone less aggressive, and we've used Nurkic less at trying to help our guards out.
Yep, I agree with all that. Do you have anything else for Nurkic?
No. I also think we should involve him more. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
On offense, but we've been saying that after every game.
Yeah, and before we get to Robert Covington, let me thank the second dono from Zergmar7. I'll read off the first one because it will be a point I'll make after these player cards. Zergmar7, $2 dono. He says, this fan base is super toxic. It's embarrassing. And I see some people saying, oh, it's every fan base or stuff like that. Take it from somebody who interacts with Blazer, like a numerous amount of Blazer fans. This is the worst it's ever been in terms of this fan base being toxic towards players this season. I've never seen it anywhere near this bad. And it's been bad before. I've never seen it anywhere near this bad. I don't know if you have the same view, Eric?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, honestly, I do see the points of other fan bases because I look at like the Laker game today, and people are like, fire Vogel, this is the worst game. I mean, he hasn't been coaching well, but like, it's like Melo's the greatest player ever, and then Melo needs to get cut. You know, that same stuff we saw all last year. I just think Nurk probably should maybe stay off social media because I don't know if that's doing him any good right now. And I do think that he needs to find a way to kind of block out some of that criticism.
Yeah, and somebody needs to take the lead and kind of maybe tell him that.
Yeah.
And kind of be with him on that. Robert Covington, we've already talked at length about him. Here's his stat line. I don't even want to talk about him anymore. And then the last player we got is Tony Snell, who played 12 minutes tonight, 0 points, 2 rebounds, struggled defensively, missed his only 3. He's just so, like... I don't even know. Like, what's the word you would use to describe Tony Snell? I know this sounds like a Blazers press conference. We'll get to that in a second. What's the word that you would use to describe Tony Snell, Eric?
I don't know. Veteran.
Veteran. A boring veteran. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say about Tony Snell. That's it. Unless you got something, Eric, but I mean, it's Tony Snell. Don't even if you don't got anything, don't even try. Don't even waste your effort. It's Tony Snell, man.
Okay.
It's Tony Snail. Yeah. I would be. Well, here's my one takeaway. Make your 3, bro. All right, that's my takeaway. There you go. Shout Shaggy Squid to Australian Dollar Donor. He says fans are getting impatient at this point for us. There's a difference between impatience and being toxic. Just because you're impatient or frustrated doesn't mean that you need to be toxic towards players or say stuff like, believe me, I'm as frustrated as any of you guys. All right. I don't get to come on here and say, yeah, Nurkic is just terrible. He's ass. He sucks. And just speak out my behind, So no, I'm going to be objective. I'm going to think things through. I'm going to be logical, no matter how emotionally frustrated I am. And some fans just take the whole over-emotional stuff way too far and, tweet at CJ saying he doesn't care about the team and stuff like that. It's just chill, all right? Like, be frustrated. That doesn't equal being toxic towards other players. And then when players hear it and are bothered by it, like Nurkic, I mean, what are you accomplishing by being toxic towards him? Like, what are you trying to, like, what are people trying to do? And I'm not saying you're doing it, Shaggy Squid. I'm just speaking in general here. Like, what are fans trying to do by tweeting at CJ and saying he doesn't care about the team? Do they think that's going to help? Being toxic towards Nurkic and telling him he's garbage? Do you think that's going to help? If anything, that's just going to hurt. So maybe don't do that. Crazy concept. I know, but I appreciate the $2 dono, Shaggy
But all
Squid.
those people want a certain someone out because of his toxic environment he creates, right?
Yep.
All you guys are acting like Olshay right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't like Olshay, don't be like him.
Don't be an That's gonna be my motto for anybody
Yeah.
being toxic. Don't be an Olshay.
That's perfect.
Hey,
Hey,
good job, Eric.
while you're doing that, read the comments two above Shaggy Squid's donation.
2 above.
Yeah.
Nurk is so soft. And everything, we find him the ball, he fumble it. If you gonna want more touches, you gotta execute when he does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So soft.
there you go. So soft, man.
Yeah. But when we play an aggressive defense, he's really good. That makes him soft. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. That's so soft. But honestly, though, I talked about this a few games ago. We never get him the ball up high. We still don't do it. It's all little bounce passes around his feet or his waist where he has to go down to get him. And it's never just like, oh, he's open, let's throw it up near the rim and have him go get it and lay it in. It doesn't matter if you're a quick jumper in that situation or not. Obviously, it helps to get a dunk if you can jump like JaVale McGee or as quick as he can, or Dwight Howard or whatever. But like, Nurk could easily just grab the ball and guide it towards the backboard on a higher pass, and we don't do a good job with any of our bigs, and that's why we've struggled with that for years and years. Is all of our passes, all of our sets are designed to have low passes to get them the ball in tough spots where they're having to navigate multiple defenders. And until that gets cleaned up, it's impossible for me to blame necessarily someone's hands, because we say that about every big we've ever had. Oh, their hands suck. They have stone hands. Mm-hmm. And it's always the big's fault. But like, as a big man, if you're constantly having to catch the ball in bad situations or in traffic and low where you're not able to go up quickly, that's more to me on the passer, not the big man. And once again, Nurk's not completely out of it. I'm not excusing it. He needs to take better care of the ball. If he wants a bigger role, he can't turn the ball over when he gets the bigger role. So those are all important things. I just think we are doing a disservice to all of our bigs by not getting the ball to them in the right positions and up higher where they can do something right away with the ball instead of having to first gather the ball before they decide what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, so basically you're saying it's a more nuanced conversation than he's so soft.
Right, yeah. But that's all it is he's trash, he's terrible, he's so soft, he can't catch the ball, he turns the ball over. What an idiot wanting a bigger role when he doesn't do anything when he gets the ball.
He should shut up and dribble.
Shut up and play basketball.
Shut up and play basketball, yeah. Shout out Daniel G, $2 dono. He says, Nurk, if you're watching, I still love you, man. Yeah, I don't think Nurkic would watch us because he'd just see chat and not be happy, unfortunately, but appreciate the $2 dono, Daniel. I mean, we're the Nurkic apologists, I guess. You know, Nurkic is our all-star or whatever that tweet said. So, I don't know, man. He just gets too much hate. And, you know, he has bad games. But just say what he's doing bad. Say what he needs to do better. Why does criticism have to be so negative and toxic? Which I know is a dumb question because it's the internet. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But, I mean, at least in our chat, man, I mean, the super toxic stuff, like our mods I have no problem with our mods hiding that. You know, like if you have some criticism that's like, okay, he struggled doing this, he needs to do a better job doing this, or it's inexcusable that he didn't give effort in this game. I might disagree with you on the effort, but that's like legitimate criticism that makes sense as criticism. What doesn't make sense is he's so soft, he fumbles everything and can't finish. Oh, he's shooting 70% at the rim. What do you mean he can't finish? Oh, well, he just can't finish. Like, that stuff is just ridiculous. So, let me take the...
2 for 3 inside the arc tonight.
I mean, he's center career high, so I don't know. Shout out Zergmar7 for a $5 dono. I waited for this one. He says, are there any players we should trade for to really get us deep into the playoffs? Who could we afford to trade? I've said I'm going to wait until at least game 20 to talk trades. I tweeted out an unrealistic trade for you guys that were itching, so I did kind of break that rule a little bit. But most trade talk right now is just going to be completely unrealistic because teams aren't looking to make trades right now. So it's still early in the season. That's why I'm not going to talk about anything because nothing will be realistic. We have to see how certain things play out. We don't know who's going to be available around the deadline. So the whole conversation is going to depend upon things that have yet to play out. So I appreciate the $5 dono, Zergmar. there's names I like a Jaylen Brown, Pascal Siakam. I mean, who knows if they're even available though.
Yeah, if any of those guys become available, you obviously want to do that. Both Jaylen Brown and Pascal Siakam are guys who, if you could get for CJ and assets, those are guys I feel comfortable giving assets up for. If you have to give assets for role players, then that's when I become a little less skeptical. But at this point, I've never been against trading CJ. That's never been my point. But when people say I think the roster is good, that automatically means I don't want to trade anyone, which has never been true. But at this point, I almost kind of just want to see this team without CJ at times. So I'm totally on board with that. But like you mentioned, there's not a lot of things that make sense in terms of what other teams would want to do this early in the season.
Yep, and I just want to say I appreciate the donations. You guys are doing a really good job, contributing to chat. I love being able to read off donos just as contributions to the conversation. Obviously, I can't read off everything in chat and then provide my own analysis, so I appreciate that, and it helps us do the graphics that we do. So shout out to Krish for helping me with the graphics. Your guys' donos helps take care of him. So let's jump into the interview. It's going to be an interesting one, Eric. We got Chauncey Billups. Sorry, I still have yet to log into my ad-free account. I'm not completely back with my computer.
I'm frozen on your screen.
Are you? All right, let me...
Doesn't look like I'm frozen on regular Skype.
Bang, okay. There we go. Now you should be fine. It minimized Skype, so if it minimizes...
Now I'm Chauncey giving the interview. Oh, okay.
Do you want to be Chauncey giving the interview?
No, I do not want. I actually want to hear what Chauncey said. I've heard some people or I've read some of the comments in chat, so I want to hear it from his mouth.
Yep, let's do it. 6-minute interview.
Didn't quit, but just couldn't go now.
And it seems like it's good audio, so that's cool.
I'm not.
Yeah, we missed some shots in the first quarter, but I was confused that I don't think we came to compete in this game. This is a team that beat us in the playoffs last year. And we come and don't even compete in the first quarter. It was kind of, a little disappointed in the effort. But, you can't control if shots will or won't go down. We had some good looks, but just no fight. And then put the second group in, and Dennis, I thought, gave us a lot of scrap, a lot of fight. Nas, Code. All the second unit they played as hard as we need to play. The first unit they just didn't have it.
Chauncey, we're a month into the season now, and this is another one where we're tallying up effort, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at with that? Where's your concern level?
Well, to be honest with you, Jason, I'm still learning our team. I learn more every day when things like this happen. I'm learning every single person, every single individual on the team, and that takes time. But, days like this, you learn a lot.
I thought Nurk looked really demoralized, particularly heading into halftime. Did you address that with him, or what were you seeing from him tonight?
No, I didn't address that with him. He didn't look much different than a lot of the guys on the team, I thought.
Do you think Dame's absence had anything to do with that? With the starters maybe not being as competitive as you would like?
Obviously, when you're missing your leader and you're missing your best player, there's probably going to be an impact. But them dudes missing 3 starters over there. They're missing 3 starters, and so yeah, you figured that it would probably have an impact, but not. It should never, nothing, no matter who plays or not, it should never control whether you play with urgency and desperation. things are different, you know, when you got somebody different running the point or calling the plays or this or that, but none of those things should ever change, you know, how hard you play with the urgency.
When does this, if this pattern keeps showing where you guys are lacking effort, and at what point do you say, I've got to change something?
It's coming.
It's coming?
That point is coming soon. If we continue to play like that, because, you know, if you think about it, if you keep playing that way, you know, then at some point I have to look at it and say, dang, something's not quite working. And then maybe, you know, think about shifting some things around, but it's getting there. Like I said, I'm learning a lot every single game, every single day. I'm putting it in my mental notes, and we'll see. Hopefully we're much better tomorrow. We play a lot harder tomorrow.
Is it tough at all because maybe the suspects are not the same each night to know how to even make a change? Or are you seeing consistent things at certain spots?
I'm seeing some consistent things that I'm not very happy with almost every night.
Does it seem to
Eric, I'm gonna pause it. What do you think those consistent things are in Chauncey's mind? Maybe not what you're seeing, but what do you think Chauncey's referencing?
The things that aren't being consistent each night.
Yeah.
Sounds
Sounds like he's thinking about specific players in regards to maybe effort.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Effort. Like I said, there was that play where Rocco looks like he's one of the best hustlers in the league, and then falls asleep later on. CJ fell asleep off ball several times. Nurk, we talked about, has seemingly been kind of down and pouting a lot. Norm has at least once a game where something happens, either a turnover, or he thinks he got fouled, and he stands there like complaining or sits on the ground and doesn't get back up into the play. And so, yeah, it's like I kind of like that question, like, who do you think it is, or if it's different every time, because I feel like right now it is kind of everyone, and it's not like some nights it's not certain people and some nights it is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. He said it like it's the way he's talking makes it sound like there's one or two guys that he's unhappy with in regards to the effort. And I would guess one of them's Rocco. I would absolutely guess that one of them's Rocco. The other one, if there's a second guy, everybody else is kind of like has their moments, but isn't like consistently lacking in terms of the effort. If I had to guess, maybe a second guy that he had an issue with, it would be CJ, but I don't see him making the starting lineup change by taking CJ out. Yeah. So I would say like Rocco for Nance would maybe be the thing, or maybe even Rocco for Nas. Mm-hmm. But then we're like Rocco for Nas, we're even smaller. But
small.
Rocco does I don't think Rocco plays bigger than Nas, except for maybe when he's protecting the rim. That's about the only area. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I like that he says change is coming if we continue to play like that. That puts guys on notice. So let's listen to the last 3.5 minutes. Or no, it's 2.5 minutes. Let's listen to it.
it seems like you guys are spotting teams' points early on in games, and that seems like it's happening the entire trip. But this is the first time you've really mentioned like not having the effort. Do you feel like it was something else before, or is it kind of a?
No, I mean, I just think that there's no real reason to not have effort. You know, on nights there's sometimes we've had a lot of games, so I could see being tired, but we don't practice. We don't have shoot-arounds. I'm trying to preserve everything we can, you know, with our legs, and so everything we do is kind of mental. You know, watch the tape, talk about it. What can we do a little better? And so, you know, I could see if we come out and we play our behinds off, or we just run out of gas. I can live with that. I don't like losing like this. You know, this game was over. even though we kept fighting and we kept scrapping, it was like kept it 10-12 here or there. A guy hit a shot, we get a. I mean, that's not a game, you know. That's still tough.
How do you feel about the offense's flow? Was there too much isolation for your appetite?
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it. But you know, they did a lot of switching. They changed defenses a little bit. I think it confused us a tad, but you know, I wasn't crazy about it.
And how do you feel about Ant and how he ran the offense?
Yeah, I thought that was for the most part, I thought he played good. He played hard, man. Ant played hard. You know, Ant played hard. And he got to the basket. He tried to make some plays for us. I was happy with how Ant played.
There's a stretch coming up where you're going to have 2 days off in between games, like twice within a week. Is that going to be a very important time for you guys to actually maybe breathe a little bit, have some practice time?
You hope so, but at the end of the day, you know, you look at it. We had 6 and 9 days. Had 2 days. Now we almost at the end tomorrow. 5 and 7 days, right? So, you know, you still dudes are still tired. You know, you're still tired and stuff. So, but these are the things that every team is dealing with. This is not just the Portland Trailblazers. You know, you got to find a way to mentally just fight through it and get better.
I was asking because a couple of times on this trip, a couple of players have talked about not being able to practice.
Yeah.
There's a stretch coming up where you might be able to actually.
We'll definitely be working on some things.
Oh, I was muted. So that's the interview. Good job, Aaron Fentress. Aaron Fentress asks really good questions, man. He's taken
Been a lot better, yeah.
He's taken a leap this year. Shout out to Aaron Fentress. Because
he's getting his questions from Dwight.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, I saw people tagging him with like a couple of things that he should ask. I mean, the 1 game in 5 days, asking if they're going to be working on some stuff is interesting. Chauncey says he's not crazy about the ice, but he needs to try and do something about it. I feel like he's not really trying to do anything about it. So, I don't know. What were your thoughts on the last part of that press conference?
So verified that it's not Ant he was talking about, which we kind of figured. I'm 100% sure it's not Nas. So those guys are not the problem.
I don't think it's Larry.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it was Larry. Because as someone mentioned in chat, let me try to find it real quick. Michael Jajon says Nance holds people accountable on the court. And we talked about this after last game, how he was kind of trying to talk to Ant a little bit. And, yeah, he does seem like he's communicating out there. And he knows how to play the right way. So completely disagree with guys like Lamza in chat saying that Nance doesn't fit this roster or something. I don't think that's it at all.
Nance fits every roster. What?
I don't think Cody Zeller really plays enough or has enough of an impact to really be talking about him. So it's pretty much got to be one of the starters. And yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I do agree with him that I felt like we did get good shots at the beginning of this game. We just could not hit an open three. Throughout the game, I felt like some of the players did take some bad shots, but overall, I feel like we're not getting good shots because of movement, not necessarily because we're not trying to pass initially.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ISO possessions, but that's not like 100% of the problem.
I mean, we need to work offensively. We need to work on things. And then we need to get back to playing aggressive defensively. We're not playing aggressive enough. You know, I don't know. I hate how conservative we're playing defensively. That's the two things. And then holding the effort accountable. That's kind of the 3 main things right now for me with this team.
Well, to that point about the thing, so what did we hear in the locker room when we were playing good defense? Wow, this is fun. See, playing defense is fun. Like, we're stopping people. This is awesome, you know? and then now we not playing aggressive, but that teams thrive off that aggression. You know what I mean? Like they need that, and that's why I feel like we're doing such a disservice by going back to this. Let's drop the big against Chris Paul. Let's switch every pick and let's not fight through those. Let's go under every single screen. Even though this team is shooting 50% so far in the game, they're 10 of 20, but let's still go under every screen. It's like it's just a situation where I feel like if we just, even if it wasn't better, like rating wise, if we were playing a defense that is more aggressive, it just leads to more aggression on the other end too. And it's more fun. It gets people engaged more. When we mentioned this all the last couple of years, a conservative defense, when you use drop, you're always letting the other team dictate the action. And that's not good for a team that needs to, or has obviously 100% proven that when they are the ones dictating the action and being aggressive, that they are a much better team.
Yep, I agree with that. Do you have any other takeaways while I set us up for around the NBA?
No, I mean, once again, Chauncey, I still feel like he's winning the interviews and stuff, but it doesn't matter if he can't get it to translate on the court. So he is going to have a tough decision. If he is going to stay true to himself and his philosophies, he's got to do that relatively soon. I don't think he can give too much more leash to certain players without at least holding them accountable a little bit. And so whether that's taking away a starting spot for a little bit or, limiting minutes or yanking them out of the game the first time they do something that he has told them that he doesn't want them to do, something very soon needs to change in that regard.
Yep, I agree. Let's go around the NBA. You got 7 games today. These were played all throughout the day because it is a Sunday. The first game of the day, Spurs took on the Lakers. This was a pretty close game down the stretch, but the Lakers get the 114-106 victory. Anthony Davis has a big game for Los Angeles. 6 assists, 15 boards, 34 points. Carmelo Anthony, 5 for 7, 2 for 3 from the three-point line, 15 points in his 30 minutes. Taylor Horton-Tucker returned and started today and had 17 points, 7 for 14. Russell Westbrook wasn't a walking brick. He was 5 for 11. That's very good for him. 7 assists, 3 for 5 from 3 from the brick man himself. Phenomenal. 14 points, 11 boards for Mr. Westbrook. 16 off the bench from Monk, 15 from Wayne Ellington. Keldon Johnson has 24 in the loss for the Spurs. Game number 2, the Bucks continue to struggle. They're still banged up. The Hawks needed a win badly. This was a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals. For the Hawks, Trae Young has a phenomenal game, almost has a triple-double, drops 42 on 16 for 26 shooting. For the Bucks in the loss, they were without Chris Middleton still and without Brook Lopez. Giannis had 26 and 6 assists. Drew Holiday had a solid game. He struggled this year, but the Bucks now fall to 6-8. So, hey, the defending champs are 6-8, just like the Blazers. That's not too bad, right?
Sure.
Game number 3, the Nets beat the Thunder, who have been a surprising team this year. The Nets were led by 33 from Kevin Durant. James Harden, after having a big game last game, only shoots 13 times in 36 minutes, has 16 points. 13 assists, though, for him. Patty Mills off the bench, Eric. 29 points for him.
Like 9 or 12 from 3 at one point.
Yeah, 9 for 12 from 3 is what he finished at. And then another former Blazer, LaMarcus Aldridge, 5 for 11, 3 for 5 from 3. He had 15 points. So that's 44 points combined from LaMarcus Aldridge and Patty Mills off that Brooklyn bench. For the Thunder, 23 from SGA, 20 from Lou Dort. Game number 4, you had the Hornets beat the Warriors. They break the Warriors' winning streak. The Warriors finally get their second loss of the season. Charlotte was led by Miles Bridges, who continues to have a breakout season with 22 points and 3 assists. LaMelo Ball, 21 points, 5 assists. Terry Rozier had 20 in the win. For the Warriors in the loss, 7 for 22 shooting from Steph Curry, 3 for 13 from 3. He had 24 points and 10 assists. Andrew Wiggins had 28. Or do you want to say something about that game?
No.
Oh, you just sound like you were about to talk. I wanted to make sure to give you the chance. Phoenix beats Houston 115-89. That's 8 wins in a row for the Phoenix Suns to move to 9-3. 26 from Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton was still out, but it wasn't an issue for them. In the loss, 17 for Christian Wood. Blazers Nuggets is a disgusting score. One more game. The Bulls beat the Clippers 100-90. The Clippers, I think, were on a winning streak as well that fell today because DeMar DeRozan had a 35-point game. 1 for 1 from the three-point line. He's learned how to shoot from the three-point line. He could always hit mid-range shots. I never understood why he couldn't knock down threes, and he's been a pretty solid three-point shooter this season. So 35 from him, 29 from Zach LaVine. The Bulls moved to 9-4. The Clippers fall to 8-5. They had 27 from PG, but on 7 for 25 shooting, so that's not good. Eric Bledsoe had 21 on 7 for 14 shooting. It's pretty bad when your best offensive player is Eric Bledsoe. Usually that's going to lead to a loss. Here are some notable performances. Just one triple-double. You got DeJounte Murray down there. He's kind of the lone holdover from some Spurs teams in previous years. You got Kevin Durant with 33. Nikola Jokic almost gets a triple-double against the Blazers. He was 3 for 3 from 3. Continues his dominance of Portland, sadly. AD and Trae Young, big games as well. Standings. I mean, we're still in 9th, Eric. But we're kind of losing some ground on some teams above us. But yeah, it's a hard early season schedule, so it's to be expected. We'll look at the games coming up. The Blazers have a chance to turn this around and get back to 500. Any thoughts on this standing sheet?
Well, once again, we fall 2 games below 500. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time this year. Just got to find a way to get a win tomorrow night and not get further down in the standings. But Utah's lost several games recently. Memphis has not looked good recently. Lakers have been hit or miss without LeBron.
And they've had a very easy schedule, too.
So we're not too far out of it. Just got to not fall further down that right-hand column, stay above or near the top of that, and not let too many things bother us. But, yeah.
The Clippers are 8-5, by the way. This was done before that game was final. So, I mean, I don't know. Dallas is at a super easy schedule, too. So, Portland has a chance to get into the top 4 still, I think. They just got to fix a lot of things. They do have a very easy later part of the schedule. Let's look at the East. Chicago is now 9-4. You got Brooklyn at 10-4. Washington at 9-3, still leading the East. I don't know what in the world is up in Washington, but somehow they're good. Has Washington had an easy schedule? I think they've had a pretty easy schedule.
I don't think it's been terribly easy, but yeah, they've played a lot of. I don't know. I think it's been an average schedule.
Cleveland continues to win. They're 9-5. Milwaukee is going to be interesting to see what seed they end up with. I mean, if they continue on for much longer, you could be talking about them as like a 6 or a 7 seed, and I mean, maybe that's a Brooklyn-Milwaukee first-round matchup. That would be some fun in the first round, where there's half the series are always not even competitive. So the East is very interesting to follow. But let's move on to the next 5 games. Eric, a 4-game homestand. Yay! This 4-game homestand lasts 8 days. 8 days from the 15th to the 23rd. It's going to be interesting because we have looked really good at home. We just had a pretty blah road trip and are coming off a terrible loss. And that first home game is on the second night of a back-to-back. So it's going to be interesting to see what Blazers team shows up. I feel like this homestand is going to tell us, like, okay, is it truly a situation where they're just phenomenal at home and bad on the road? Or was maybe some of the early home performances kind of fluky? I think this homestand will show that because you got 4 decent teams here with Toronto, Scotty Barnes, the rookie, coming in. Chicago has been winning games. They're 9-4 now. Philadelphia, we'll see if they have Joel Embiid back. And then Denver for a rematch to hopefully finally get our revenge from the playoff loss.
Yes.
3-1 the goal here, you think?
The homestand should be 3-1. That puts us right back at 500. And then, the Kings are, they're okay, but we should be able to beat them even though that's a road game. So, assuming Dame doesn't miss many more games, if any, I don't think, even though these are some tough teams, I don't think 3-1 is too much to ask if we play the way we have at home so far.
Yeah, if you include that Sacramento game, you got to win at least 3 of these. Yeah. You got to win at least 3. You got to at least be 9-10. In my opinion, if they're 8-11, it won't be the end of the world by any means. It's just we should be able to get at least 3 of these. It'd be nice to get at least 3 of them at home. But with how Portland's played at home, if that continues, I wouldn't be shocked if they won all 4 games at home. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what this homestand looks like. For that game tomorrow, I will be going to that game. So post-game show will go live a little bit later than usual. Hopefully it's a win. Hopefully I'm not cussing out Robert Covington for not trying in the stadium and getting myself kicked out. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Anything else, Eric?
Yeah, so reading this quick article, shout out to Reese that just dropped a few minutes ago, or 40 minutes ago now. So it's about the lineups and playing time and stuff like that and what some of the problems are. The most likely changes would be at starting forward, where Robert Covington has struggled on both ends, and center, where Yusuf Nurkic has been inconsistent and sometimes non-existent. Nasir Little has been a tornado of energy at forward, and both Cody Zeller and Larry Nance have had effective stints at center.
What?
Yeah.
They're barely playing Cody Zeller. They're not about to bench. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I'm still saying Zeller's way better than Nurk tweets and stuff, and don't understand that at all. Zeller should be fine as a backup center. He should be one of the better backup centers in the league. But I don't necessarily agree that starting him over Nurk solves anything. But yeah,
I'm okay with a change at the starting 4. I am not okay with a change at the starting 5.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
I feel like our defense, you'll see just how bad it is if that happens.
They brought up Larry Nance. What? So we're going to start Nas at the 4 and Nance at the 5? We're just going to go even smaller?
And then how do you have the bench? I don't know.
So Zeller does it? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think Rocco is the guy to watch if he continues.
He also says Nurkic appeared demoralized at halftime when, after Jokic hit the 3, Nurkic walked to the locker room with his head down, void of spirit. Later in the game, he was seen walking up the court. I missed that part. But once again, Billups said in the postgame that he didn't notice Nurk standing out because everyone lacked effort tonight, so it wasn't like. So I don't know if Billups is necessarily. I don't know. I haven't gotten an indication that he's lost Nurk or hasn't, or doesn't, or thinks that Nurk is the problem, or changing that part of the lineup would change anything.
Yeah, and here's the thing: even if Nurkic isn't necessarily giving it his all and being kind of mopey, he's still at least been solid.
Yeah.
Robert Covington has not been solid; he's been worse than solid. Mm-hmm. So, Nurkic has still been good defensively, and he's still finishing well. The numbers don't lie on that. So, yeah, Rocco's the change to make, and it would be interesting to see Nance in the starting lineup, in my opinion. I wouldn't go Nas. I think Nance can bring enough energy and makes more sense as a starting 4. Yeah, I think not. I think Nance. Here's the thing: if you bring Rocco off the bench, how well is he going to play? Like at this point, I think Rocco's on the trading block if he continues this. If Nurkic got taken out of the starting lineup, you could just kiss bye to him being productive at all. You know what I mean? Like that's not
yeah,
a good
but
idea.
at the same time, you can't coach that way. I mean, you don't want to lose him,
like, he
but
doesn't deserve to be taken out of the starting lineup.
Yeah,
And I think he knows that. Like, so if he was promised to be utilized more offensively and he's not, and promised to be, playing an aggressive defensive scheme, and now they're going conservative, and he's still doing a decent job defensively, and he's finishing at a career high rate, and despite all that, he's still getting absolutely obliterated by the fan base, and then he gets benched.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him. Like, just that's, I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame him, man. Like, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I like this team needs, like, we need to get the best Yusuf Nurkic possible. We need to figure out how to do that.
As Adam Smith says, Nurkic starting at center is still our best chance to win, and I agree. The games when he's engaged, it's just at a different level how well we play. So,
yeah, and it's like I don't know, man. Like, he's more engaged when you play him in an aggressive defensive scheme, and it's better. So do that. Mm-hmm. Utilize his playmaking a little bit more. Run a set for him once in a while, designed to get him a shot. A cross screen for him to be on the opposite block and get a screen, and then cut towards the ball and hopefully get position for a catch and shoot lay-in. Maybe instead of having him as the opposite block, you have him at the opposite elbow and have him kind of looping towards the rim and that sort of action. Here's the thing, even if it doesn't work, if you just run a set for him, maybe once a half, probably is going to help you out because he's going to be a little bit more engaged. When you don't run anything for him, I mean, and sure, like, he should be more mentally solid, but you got what you got with him. So run a set for him and try and get him, utilize him more as a playmaker. It will be better for our offense, and try and get him a couple sets where he can get easy looks inside that isn't just coming off the pick and roll. You do that, and I think you play a more aggressive defensive scheme, and I think Nurkic will be engaged, and Nurkic will be fine. That's just my opinion, because that's what was told to him before the season.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think part of the problem is Nance and Zeller, while okay separately, aren't really great together. And Rocco and Nurk obviously don't have a lot of chemistry together. So switching out our starting lineup and having Nance and Zeller start, or Nance and Little start, and then having Rocco and Nurk be our backup 4-5, I feel like that's just, once again, kind of like the bring CJ off the bench thing. It's just like you were just changing the times of the game to have those problems. So I'd first like to see just kind of intermix, like maybe Rocco with Zeller, because Zeller's a little better at passing out of the middle of the key. If Rocco's in the corners, he'd probably get some open threes that way. And I feel like Nance is a little better around the hoop, so Nurk could dump it off to him in those situations if he's available to receive those passes. So I just like to see a little bit of mixture with those four if we're going to see lineup changes, not just switch out two of them for two of them and still have the same lineups, just two of them with the starters now and two of them with the bench.
Yeah, agreed. So, I mean, we got 4 home games, and we'll see if they put anything in. They only have 4 games in the next 8 days, so kind of a break from all the back-to-backs we have this month. We got a game tomorrow, and then you guys already saw the schedule. From November 18th to 22nd, we only have 1 game. So we'll see if they add in some different wrinkles. But obviously right now it's not – the team is not in a good situation at the moment with some of the malcontents and lack of effort, and – it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for Chauncey. We'll see how he handles it. This is his first big test as NBA head coach, and this 4-game homestand is going to be crucial, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say something. So we had those commercials with Nurk, that say like, I don't know if you've seen this story, but it's like one of our promo things for the Blazer season, and he's like, when you pass, two people happy. When you shoot, only one person happy. You know, and so that's why I was kind of surprised to see Nurk say last game that he was just running around. You know, because I don't think it's about how many shots he takes, but I was just thinking back to like Arvydas Sabonis when he played. So, like, obviously, tremendously skilled passer, right? But when he hit the ball in the post, there was always someone cutting, and he would do little flip passes like over his head to a cutter who was wide open, or someone was getting a back screen, and there was always action around the hoop to pass to. And once again, when we post up Nurk, it's just like, okay, Nurk, just try to score or whatever. And that's, as a big who likes to pass myself, once again, not comparing myself to an NBA player, but I can score much better if I have options to pass, and it's not just like, hey, get a basket. Like, I don't like that. I like having options where the defense doesn't know if I'm going to pass or shoot or be aggressive or pass it back out or whatever. Like, so I want a situation where I always have a cutter, and that's options. That option is there, and I feel like with Nurk, you don't necessarily need. So yeah, I saw a comment that just got deleted, thankfully. But I just, that's part of the thing we've been talking about is get Nurk the ball in the post, but have it be a designed play to get an open shot for someone. He'd be happy because he touched the ball and made a good pass, and the offense would be better for it because we would likely get an open shot. But like, I don't think he just wants to have the ball and get like 5 post-ups a game with having to shoot all 5 times. You know, I don't think it's like that.
Yep. We need more cutters in general, in every sort of action. Like, we just need more movement, and Chauncey said he wasn't crazy about how much ISO they were playing, so it's on him to change it. It's on him to implement some stuff. So we'll see if he's able to do so. And that's where we're at right now. Anything else that you got for this post-game show?
You responded in chat, but if Nurk is playing with the second unit, like, Nurk's been going out pretty early in some of these games within the first few minutes. Mm-hmm. So why not bring him back in the beginning of the second quarter with the second unit and and run some of those plays for Nas or Ants when he's with the second unit or Nance or whoever. And that's part of the reason why I want to see him with Nance, is because I feel like if Nance plays around the rim, Nurk could lob it up to him or dump it off to him several times for easy baskets for him. And we could develop a strong, we could develop a strong 2-man game with them, and that's why I want to see that. So yeah, there's no reason why he has to be benched to do that. Just bring him back at the beginning of the second quarter and let him play with the second unit, and then mix the lineups from there. It drives me crazy because everyone's like, oh, what's Stott supposed to do? He's got Cantor and Melo on the bench, so there's nothing he can do to fix the defense. It's like, well, you don't have to play them together. You could have Melo come in and play a little bit with the starters and then go out, and then Cantor comes in and plays a little bit with the bench, and then from there on, you're just rotating them back and forth the rest of the game, and maybe a couple minutes overlapping, but you don't have to play them at the same time. So it drives me crazy when people think like that's the only option, is having to play certain people at certain points of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple going forward. Energy and effort. It needs to be held accountable. It needs to be better. Offensively, we need more ball movement. We need more player movement. We need more diversity in what we're running. Defensively, we need to get back to be playing an aggressive scheme, because this conservative stuff is not going to cut it. That's the 3 keys going into this homestand for me. So hopefully that sets things up as we head into this next week. With that being said, it's going to be a wrap for this post-game show. We'll have another post-game show tomorrow. Film breakdown I'm going to drop on Tuesday. Still got to figure out how to get the editing software on my computer. So this stream, and then probably the next stream I might be able to put on Spotify. I'll try and figure it out tomorrow. But this stream will not be on Spotify. I had a couple people ask about that. I gotta download my editing software again. My computer got the memory wiped about a week ago, in case you missed that whole debacle. So it's fixed. It's good to go now. Just got to get everything kind of back to where it was. We'll have 2 streams tomorrow. One will be Blazers Uprise Live. We got, how many games do we have tomorrow for picks against the spread?
Oh, you said like 11 or something.
There's like
didn't you?
11 games, so it's finally time for me to dig myself out of this picks against the spread hole. Tune in on our second channel. The link is in the description around 3:30 p.m. and we will have a stream for you guys. We'll preview the Raptors game and we'll do picks against the spread. And then post-game show tomorrow night. We'll go live about 30 minutes approximately after the game, because I will be going to it. So just stay tuned for that. Anything else?
No, thank you everyone for watching. Even those that disagree with us, thank you for tuning in, and hope you have a good rest of your night.
Yep. Have a good rest of your Sunday. We will catch you tomorrow with 2 streams. This is 3 streams in 2 days. So hopefully you enjoy it, despite the team's mediocre play. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.